In western Ukraine, Russia has fired 13 cruise missiles at an airfield. They were intercepted, according to the Ukrainian military. Air raid alerts were heard across the country overnight on Thursday. Drones and missiles targeted areas from Lviv in the far west to Kherson in the south. Russia says Ukrainian forces have killed one person in the region of Zaporizhzhia. It happened in a village on the southeastern front line. Both sides have intensified shelling. Ukraine says Russian forces killed 3 civilians further south in Kherson. Russian intelligence agents say they've stopped a Ukrainian plot to obtain radioactive material. Russian state media has released pictures of the raid. The FSB security service says 5 people were detained while trying to buy a kilogram of cesium for $3.5 million. It says the group was working for a Ukrainian citizen. The UN Security Council is holding a briefing on the ongoing war in Ukraine. The US ambassador to the UN has accused Iran of not only providing Russia with hundreds of one-way attack drones, but working to produce these weapons inside Russia. The US and its allies are calling on the Secretary General to investigate these violations. Our diplomatic editor, James Bays, is joining us live now from the UN in New York. James, we just saw pictures there of Vasily Nabantia, the permanent representative of Russia, talking to the rest of the Security Council, clearly responding to what's been said. What has been happening over the last couple of hours?
Well, this is a general briefing of the Security Council requested by Albania, which is very much an ally of the US, on the situation in Ukraine. But what we have heard in this meeting, and actually just before the meeting, when a group of ambassadors came to address reporters, is further allegations of Iran's involvement with the Russians in providing drones to the Russians to use in Kyiv. The US ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield said that there are hundreds of Iranian drones being used by the Russians and that they've been used again in recent days. She also says the US has intelligence that there is a new drone factory that is operating inside Ukraine, run by the Russians and the Iranians to produce further drones. And she says there's intelligence from both the US and the UK that's been provided to the United Nations. She says it's time for the United Nations to take action.
Russia's and Iran's actions violate UN Security Council Resolution 2231. That resolution prohibits all countries, including permanent members of the Security Council, from transferring these types of weapons from Iran absent advanced Security Council approval.
Ambassador, the Secretary General says he doesn't have a mandate to investigate. What do you say to that?
2231, Resolution 2231 does give the Secretary General a mandate to carry out these investigations, and we have all encouraged the UN to move forward on carrying out these investigations immediately.
Slight correction to what I just said. I mentioned that Russia and Iran are collaborating, according to the US, on a drone factory. That's not actually in Ukraine. It's in Russia. The Russian ambassador to the United Nations was listening to the US ambassador when she was giving those comments. He came then to the microphone to reporters and made it clear that he was not in favour of any sort of investigation. I put it to him, surely if you've got nothing to hide, then why, and if you're not using Iranian drones, why don't you let the UN investigate? His answer was, well, he doesn't believe that Resolution 2231 gives the Secretary-General the power to launch an investigation, and he doesn't think the team that works on that investigation have the capabilities to launch any such investigation. So you've got quite a number of Western countries saying they need an urgent investigation, saying the Secretary-General should not hesitate, he has the power to launch one. Russia saying no, no, no. The Secretary-General of the United Nations right now is in a difficult position.
Our diplomatic editor, James Bays at the UN. James, thank you very much indeed, as always.